The night everything shifted, Victoria Chen pressed her forehead against the cold glass of the hospital corridor window, watching rain hammer against the pavement 3 stories below. 28 years old and utterly exhausted, the fluorescent lights above hummed their monotonous tune while she calculated the impossible math. In her head, for the 100th time, rent due in 5 days, student loans 3 months overdue, and now this latest hospital bill that might as well have been written in millions, instead of thousands. Her phone buzzed with another text from her landlord. Final notice. She deleted it without responding. Victoria had always believed hard work conquered everything. She had believed her nursing degree would be her ticket to stability. She had believed taking care of others would somehow ensure the universe took care of her. Funny how belief and reality rarely matched. The man who controlled everything across town in the gleaming headquarters of Brooks Financial Group, Nathaniel Brooks, stood at his office window with a similar view of the rain, though his perspective cost considerably more. At 34, he had built an empire that made older men nervous and younger men envious. His tailored suits cost more than most people's monthly salaries. His decisions moved markets. His word was law in boardrooms across 3 continents. Yet none of that mattered tonight, because his board of directors had just delivered an ultimatum that made his stomach turn. Marriage. Nathaniel, his oldest board member, had said, sliding a folder across the mahogany conference table. The Henderson acquisition depends on it. Their old family money. Traditional values. They want to see commitment, stability, a man who understands partnerships beyond profit margins. You're demanding I get married to close a deal? Nathaniel had asked, his voice dangerously quiet. We're suggesting that your personal life needs to reflect the maturity your professional life demands. 3 months. Nathaniel, show us you can commit to something beyond quarterly earnings. Now, hours later, the absurdity of it still burned. Nathaniel had sacrificed relationships, friendships, and countless personal moments to build Brooks Financial. He had given them everything. And somehow, it still wasn't enough. Collision course. The emergency room at Seattle Memorial was chaos incarnate when Nathaniel arrived. His driver had caught a red light runner head-on. The driver would be fine, but the accident had thrown Nathaniel against the door hard, enough that his assistant insisted on the hospital visit. He hated hospitals. The smell of antiseptic and desperation. The artificial brightness, trying to mask impossible darkness. The way everyone moved with practiced urgency toward crises he would never understand. Mr. Brooks, a nurse appeared, clipboard in hand, brown eyes tired but kind. I'm Victoria. I'll be getting you registered. Can you describe what happened? Nathaniel found himself staring, not because she was beautiful, though she was, with delicate features and dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. No. He stared because despite obvious exhaustion etched into every line of her face, she smiled at him with genuine warmth. Like he was a person, not a portfolio. Car accident, he managed. Minor. My assistant overreacted. Better safe than sorry. Victoria began typing information into an ancient computer system. Any pain, dizziness, nausea? Just impatience. The words came out sharper than intended. I have somewhere to be. She glanced up, and something flickered in her expression. Not offense, understanding, don't we all? The question that changed her lives for hours. 1 CT scan, and countless insurance forms later. Nathaniel found Victoria in the break room at 2 a.m. She sat alone, eating cold cafeteria pizza and scrolling through her phone with increasing desperation. You look how I feel, he said from the doorway. She jumped, then laughed tiredly. You're still here? They cleared you hours ago. I was thinking. He moved into the room, drawn by an impulse he didn't fully understand. About what you said earlier. That we all have somewhere to be, just exhausted rambling. Victoria set down her phone. You should go home, Mr. Brooks, get some rest. Nathaniel, he corrected, and I can't sleep anyway. Not with the decision I need to make. Something in his tone made her look closer. Want to talk about it? I'm told I'm a good listener. Occupational hazard, so he told her. Not the business details, but the core of it. the impossible choice between his company and his autonomy, the absurdity of trading marriage for mergers, the loneliness of realizing that despite all his success, he was still somehow failing. Victoria listened without judgment, and when he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That's medieval," she finally said. "Also, probably illegal in several ways." Completely. Nathaniel smiled, despite himself. "But effective. So what will you do?" He looked at her, really looked at her, seeing past the exhaustion to the intelligence and strength underneath. "Something crazy," he heard himself say. "Marry a stranger." Victoria laughed. "Good luck finding someone willing to sign up for that particular nightmare." "What if I already have?" The words escaped before wisdom could stop them. "What if I offered you a way out of whatever has you eating cold pizza at 2 a.m. while checking your bank balance every 5 minutes? The room went silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. "You don't even know me," Victoria whispered. "I know you're exhausted. I know you're drowning in something that isn't your fault. I know that in 4 hours of bureaucratic hell, you treated me with more genuine kindness than I've experienced in years." Nathaniel leaned forward. "I'm not proposing a real marriage. I'm proposing a business arrangement. 6 months. You play the role of my devoted partner, attend events, convince my board I'm a reformed man. In return, I clear whatever debt is destroying you and set you up with enough money to start over." "This is insane." "Completely," he agreed, "but I'm betting whatever nightmare you're facing feels pretty insane too." Victoria stared at him, and Nathaniel watched a dozen emotions cross her face. Fear, hope, desperation, calculation. "I need to think," she finally said. "You have 24 hours. Nathaniel stood, pulling a business card from his wallet. "After that, I find another solution, and you go back to whatever battle you're fighting alone." He left her sitting there, half-eaten pizza forgotten, his card lying on the table between them like a loaded gun. Neither of them knew that the next time they spoke, everything would change. That a transaction designed to solve separate problems would create a complication neither of them saw coming. That sometimes the most dangerous bargains are the ones we make with strangers. In hospital break rooms at 2 a.m., when we're too tired to protect ourselves from hope. The storm outside had stopped. Inside, a different kind of storm was just beginning. The contract-signing Victoria stood outside. The gleaming tower of Brooks Financial Group, her reflection in the glass doors showing a woman she barely recognized. She had spent 23 hours of her 24-hour deadline pacing her tiny apartment, making lists of pros and cons, and ultimately realizing that pride was a luxury she could no longer afford. The medical bills from her father's final year had crushed her. He had died 6 months ago, leaving her with memories of his laughter and a mountain of debt that grew larger every day. She had tried everything. Extra shifts, payment plans, even a GoFundMe that raised barely enough for 1 month's minimum payment. Nathaniel's offer was unconventional, possibly unethical, and absolutely her only way out. "Miss Chen." A receptionist smiled professionally. "Mr. Brooks is expecting you. Top floor." The elevator ride felt like ascending to another world. Each floor dinged past represented more wealth than Victoria had seen in her lifetime. When the doors opened directly into Nathaniel's office, she stepped into a space that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine. "You came," Nathaniel said, turning from his window view of the city. "I have conditions," Victoria replied, refusing to let her nervousness show. "I expected nothing less." He gestured to a conference table where his lawyer waited with documents. "Shall we begin?" They negotiated for 3 hours. For every clause Nathaniel proposed, Victoria demanded modifications. Separate living spaces became shared residence with separate bedrooms. Public appearances included her right to refuse any event that made her uncomfortable. The financial arrangement expanded to include educational opportunities and career support after their arrangement ended. "You drive a hard bargain," Nathaniel observed, something like respect in his eyes. "I'm protecting myself," Victoria countered. "You're buying my time, not my dignity." "Good," he said simply. "I wouldn't want someone who didn't fight back." When they finally signed, Victoria's hand shook slightly. 6 months. She could survive anything for 6 months. Learning to play the part, the transformation began immediately. Nathaniel hired a stylist who taught Victoria about designer labels and appropriate attire for various events. An etiquette coach explained the unspoken rules of high society gatherings. A publicist crafted their love story for media consumption. We met through mutual friends, the publicist instructed. A dinner party 3 months ago. Connection was immediate, but you both took time to be sure before going public. That's remarkably specific for a complete fabrication. Victoria muttered. The best lies live in the details. The publicist replied cheerfully. But the real education came from Nathaniel himself. They spent evenings at his penthouse, practicing conversation and body language. He taught her about his business, explaining market strategies and acquisition targets with surprising patience. You don't have to understand it all, he said one night, as she struggled through a financial report. Yes, I do, Victoria insisted. If I'm supposed to be your partner, I need to actually know what you do. Otherwise, I'm just an accessory. Nathaniel studied her for a long moment. You're taking this seriously. You're paying me too, she pointed out. Besides, I don't do anything halfway. Something shifted in his expression. I'm beginning to see that. The first public appearance, the charity gala, was at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. A glittering affair where tickets cost more than Victoria's monthly salary. She wore a midnight blue gown that the stylist insisted brought out her eyes, though Victoria felt like a child playing dress-up. Breathe, Nathaniel murmured as their car pulled up to the red carpet. You look stunning. I looked terrified. That too, he agreed with a small smile. But mostly stunning. His hand found hers as they stepped out, and cameras immediately flashed. Victoria forced herself to smile naturally, remembering the publicist's coaching. Nathaniel's hand on her lower back felt warm through the fabric of her dress, grounding her in the surreal moment. Inside, they were immediately surrounded by curious society members. Victoria met business partners, board members, and the kind of wealthy socialites who viewed newcomers as either threats or entertainment. So how did you two meet? A woman dripping in diamonds asked, her smile sharp. Through friends, Victoria replied smoothly. Though Nathaniel likes to say I rescued him from a particularly boring dinner conversation. She's being modest, Nathaniel added, his arm sliding around her waist in a gesture that looked effortlessly natural. She called my market analysis pedestrian. I was intrigued. Sounds like you challenged him, another guest laughed. That must have been refreshing. As the evening progressed, Victoria discovered something unexpected. She was good at this. The social navigation required reading people and adapting quickly, skills she had honed through years of nursing. These people were no different from patients, just with better jewelry and more practiced lies. When the lines blurred 3 weeks into their arrangement, Nathaniel found himself doing something unusual. He cancelled a dinner meeting to eat takeout with Victoria while she studied for her nurse practitioner certification exam. You don't have to stay, she said, surrounded by textbooks at his dining table. I know you have actual work to do. This is more interesting, he replied honestly. Tell me about pharmacology. You cannot possibly care about beta blockers. Try me. So she did, explaining complex medical concepts while Nathaniel asked surprisingly insightful questions. When she finally closed her books at midnight, exhausted but prepared, she found him watching her with an odd expression. What? She asked. You light up when you talk about nursing, he observed. The way some people talk about art or music, it's not just a job for you. It's the only thing I've ever been good at, Victoria admitted. Taking care of people, solving problems, making impossible situations manageable. You're good at more than that, Nathaniel said quietly. You've managed to navigate my world in 3 weeks better than people who've spent lifetimes trying. That's different. That's just survival, is it? He leaned forward. Because from where I sit, you've charmed my most difficult board member. Impressed the Henderson family enough that they've invited us to their estate, and somehow made my publicist actually like you. That's not survival, Victoria. That's talent. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. You're paying me to do this well. I'm paying you to attend events and play a role, Nathaniel corrected. You're choosing to excel at it. There's a difference. The air between them felt suddenly charged. Victoria broke eye contact first, gathering her books. I should go to bed, she said. Early shift tomorrow. Victoria, Nathaniel called as she reached the hallway. When she turned, his expression was serious. Thank you. For taking this seriously, for being more than I had any right to expect. She nodded, not trusting her voice, and retreated to her bedroom. Alone in the darkness, she pressed her hand to her racing heart and acknowledged a terrifying truth. This was supposed to be business, but somewhere between contract negotiations and late-night study sessions, between staged photographs and genuine laughter, the lines had started to blur, and she had no idea what to do about it. The complication, the Henderson estate visit, arrived faster than either of them expected. Robert Henderson was old money personified, the kind of man who measured worth in legacy rather than liquidity. His approval would cement the acquisition that meant everything to Nathaniel's board. Remember, Nathaniel coached as they drove through the Virginia countryside. The Hendersons value authenticity above all else. Don't try too hard, so just be myself. Victoria asked Riley, the broke nurse playing dress-up as a billionaire's girlfriend. The intelligent, compassionate woman who happens to be with me, Nathaniel corrected. That's all they need to see. But the weekend proved more challenging than anticipated. Margaret Henderson, Robert's wife, was sharp-eyed and intuitive. She asked probing questions about their relationship, watching Victoria's responses with unnerving focus. How do you handle the pressure? Margaret asked over afternoon tea. Being with someone so driven, so consumed by business. Victoria thought carefully. I remind myself that drive and passion are the same energy directed differently. Nathaniel is passionate about building something meaningful. I'm passionate about healing people. We understand each other's dedication. And when his work comes first, it doesn't, Victoria said honestly. Not anymore. She glanced at Nathaniel across the garden where he spoke with Robert. It was true. Over the past month, he had shifted, leaving work earlier, asking about her day, showing genuine interest in her life beyond their arrangement. Margaret followed her gaze. You love him? Victoria's heart stopped. I don't bother denying it, Margaret said gently. I've been watching people fall in love for 50 years. I know the signs. The question is, does he know? That night, unable to sleep, Victoria found Nathaniel on the estate's terrace, staring at the stars. Couldn't sleep either, he asked as she joined him. Margaret Henderson is terrifying, Victoria admitted. She likes you, Nathaniel said. Robert told me she hasn't approved of anyone this quickly in decades. She thinks I love you. The words hung between them like a confession. Nathaniel went very still. What did you tell her? He asked quietly. Nothing, Victoria whispered, because I don't know what's true anymore. Nathaniel turned to face her fully. The moonlight caught the planes of his face, and Victoria's breath caught at the intensity in his eyes. Victoria, don't, she interrupted. Please don't say anything right now. We have 3 more months on our contract. Let's just get through this weekend and figure out the rest later. But even as she said it, Victoria knew the truth. Whatever they had started as a business arrangement had transformed into something neither of them had planned for. Something that terrified her more than any debt ever could. Because she could survive being broke. She had done it before and would do it again if necessary. But falling in love with Nathaniel Brooks, with a man whose world she had only borrowed temporarily, whose interest in her was contractually obligated to expire, that might actually break her. And standing there under the stars, watching him watch her with an expression she couldn't quite read, Victoria realized she was already too far gone to protect herself. The pretending had become reality. Now they just had to survive the consequences. The unraveling, the exposure came from an unexpected source. Nathaniel's ex-business partner, Griffin Walsh, had spent months investigating after Nathaniel had ousted him from the company for embezzlement. When Griffin discovered the contract, he didn't just leak it, He weaponized it. The headline hit every major financial publication simultaneously at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Brooks Financial, CEO's marriage fraud, exclusive contract details exposed. Victoria saw it first. Her phone exploded with notifications from numbers she didn't recognize, news alerts, and missed calls from the publicist. With shaking hands, she opened the article. Every detail was there. The timeline of their arrangement, excerpts from their contract, financial transactions, even photographs of their first hospital meeting with timestamps, proving they had known each other for exactly 1 day before signing their agreement. She found Nathaniel in his home office, already on his 4th call with lawyers. His face was pale, jaw tight, eyes furious. "I need to see you," he mouthed, gesturing for her to wait. When he finally ended the call, silence stretched between them. "Griffin," Nathaniel said simply. "He must have paid someone in my lawyer's office. What happens now?" Victoria's voice came out steadier than she felt. "The Henderson deal is dead. The board is calling for my resignation. Multiple lawsuits are being filed for fraud and misrepresentation." He ran his hand through his hair, the first time she had seen him truly disheveled. "I'm looking at losing everything I built." "I'm sorry," Victoria whispered. "Don't be." Nathaniel looked at her directly. "This isn't your fault. It's mine. I put you in this position, exposed you to this scrutiny. Your name is being dragged through every tabloid and financial journal in the country because of my choices." "Our choices," Victoria corrected. "I signed that contract under duress. Because of debt, I knew you couldn't escape." Nathaniel stood, moving to the window. "My lawyers are already working on a statement. We'll say the relationship began transactionally, but evolved into something genuine. It's not a complete lie." Victoria's heart skipped. "Nathaniel, you should pack your things," he continued, not looking at her. "I've already transferred the final payment to your account, along with a substantial bonus for the damage this will cause to your reputation. You're free from the contract, free from all obligations. I'll handle the legal fallout alone. You're dismissing me." Disbelief colored her voice. "I'm releasing you," he corrected quietly, "from a situation that's become untenable." The truth exposed. Victoria spent 3 days in a hotel room, avoiding calls and trying to process the whiplash of emotions. The money Nathaniel had transferred was life-changing. She could pay off every debt, return to school full-time, and start fresh exactly as she had planned. So why did it feel like losing everything? On the 4th day, Margaret Henderson called. "I'm not supposed to be doing this," Margaret began without preamble. "Robert would be furious. But I've watched that boy torture himself for 4 days, and I can't stay silent anymore." "Mrs. Henderson, he loves you," Margaret interrupted. "Genuinely, completely, inconveniently loves you, and he's letting you go because he thinks it's the noble thing to do." "He paid me," Victoria said bluntly. "Whatever we had was built on a transaction." "Was it?" Margaret challenged. "Because from where I stood that weekend, I saw 2 people who had forgotten they were pretending. I saw a man who looked at you like you hung the stars, and a woman who softened every hard edge he's spent years building." Victoria felt tears threaten. "It doesn't matter. The contract, the exposure, everything is ruined." "Only if you let it be," Margaret said firmly. "Do you love him?" The question hung in the air. Victoria could lie, protect herself, walk away clean. "Yes," she whispered instead. "God help me, yes." Then stop hiding in that hotel room and fight for him. The board meeting. Victoria showed up at Brooks Financial headquarters wearing her nurse's scrubs. She hadn't planned it, but she also refused to wear the designer clothes Nathaniel had bought her. If she was going to do this, she would do it as herself. The board meeting was already underway when she walked in. 20 shocked faces turned toward her, including Nathaniel's, whose expression shifted from surprise to alarm. Miss Chen, the board chairman, began icily. "This is a private meeting." "I'm aware," Victoria said calmly, "but since this meeting concerns me directly, I thought I should be present." "Victoria, you don't have to do this," Nathaniel started. "Yes, I do." She turned to face the board members. "I've read the accusations, that I was hired to play a role, that our relationship was fraudulent, that Nathaniel Brooks deceived you all for business purposes. Those are facts, not accusations, one board member snapped. We have the contract. You have a contract that shows the beginning, Victoria corrected. Not the whole story. Yes, Nathaniel approached me with a business proposition when I was drowning in debt. Yes, I agreed to play the role of his partner for financial compensation. Yes, everything you've read is technically accurate. Then, you admit the fraud, another member said. I admit the beginning was transactional, Victoria replied. But somewhere between contract negotiations and late-night conversations, between staged photographs and genuine moments, something shifted. We stopped pretending. We fell in love. And that's not fraud. That's just life being messier than business plans. The room erupted in arguments. Victoria raised her voice. You want to fire Nathaniel Brooks for being human? For making an unconventional choice that actually worked? Fine. But understand what you're losing. You're losing a CEO who built this company from nothing, who has tripled your stock value, who works harder than anyone in this room. And for what? Because his path to happiness didn't fit your traditional expectations. The Henderson deal, someone began, is one deal, Victoria interrupted, in a career of successful deals. And if the Hendersons can't see past unconventional beginnings to recognize genuine partnership, maybe they're not the right partners anyway. She turned to Nathaniel. I spent 3 days trying to convince myself to walk away, to take the money, start over, and forget this ever happened. But I can't. Because what we found, together, messy and complicated as it was, is real. And I'm not going to apologize for falling in love with you. The room went silent. Nathaniel stood slowly. Victoria, I'm not done, she said, though her voice wavered. You don't get to make decisions for both of us. You don't get to push me away, to protect me. I'm a grown woman who knew the risks and I'm choosing to stay. That is, if you still want me. The choice. Nathaniel crossed the room in 3 strides. In front of his entire board, his legal team, and God knew who else. He framed her face with his hands. I've wanted you since that night in the hospital when you looked at me like I was a person instead of a transaction. He said quietly. Every day since has been me falling deeper while trying to honor the boundaries we set. I pushed you away because I thought I was protecting you. I was an idiot. Yes, you were, Victoria agreed, tears streaming down her face. I love you, Nathaniel said clearly. Not because of a contract, not because it's convenient, because you're brilliant and compassionate and you call me out when I'm being ridiculous. Because you make me want to be better than I am. Because coming home to you feels more important than any deal I've ever closed. That's really inconvenient timing, Victoria said through tears. Since you're probably about to be fired, then we'll figure it out together, Nathaniel replied. No contracts, no predetermined endings. Just us, being honest and terrified and in love. He kissed her then, and the board meeting dissolved into chaos. 6 months later, the fallout was messy. Nathaniel did resign as CEO, though he remained on the board. He started a smaller investment firm, focused on ethical business practices and mentoring startups. He worked less, slept more, and actually took weekends off. Victoria finished her nurse practitioner degree and started working at a community health clinic. She also consulted for Nathaniel's new firm on healthcare investments, bridging both their worlds. They got married for real on a rainy Tuesday afternoon at the courthouse. Just them, Margaret and Robert Henderson as witnesses, and no cameras in sight. Should we have made this bigger? Victoria asked as they signed the license. This is perfect, Nathaniel replied. Just us, being honest about what we want. They honeymooned at a small cabin in the mountains. No internet, no business calls. Just 2 people learning to build a life together without contracts or conditions. On their last night, as rain drummed on the roof, Victoria curled against Nathaniel's chest. Do you regret it? She asked, losing the company, the reputation, everything. I didn't lose everything, Nathaniel said, pressing a kiss to her hair. I lost things that didn't matter and found the one thing that does. That's incredibly sappy. You love it. I do, Victoria admitted. I love you. Good. Nathaniel said. Because you're stuck with me now. No escape clauses, no predetermined end date. Just us, Victoria agreed. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, two people who had started as a business transaction held each other close, proof that sometimes the best love stories begin with the worst ideas and the bravest choices. That sometimes falling in love means risking everything you thought you needed to discover what you actually want. And that the most binding contracts are the ones written on hearts instead of paper, signed with trust instead of ink, and honored through choice instead of obligation. The rain eventually stopped, but their story was just beginning.